Hello, good afternoon everyone, and thanks for joining us on this Bookbug Symbol Resources webinar. And it's great to have Joanna with us, who has done loads of work on this project, and there's some really fantastic stuff on there. So I think we'll just hand over to Joanna, and she's going to talk us through all the various different kinds of resources and some useful links and all that. So
yes.
What we'll do is we'll just share our screen just now and we'll hand over, okay?
Great.
Lynette's joined us. Hi Lynette, thanks for joining us. We're just about to start, so hopefully you can hear okay. Right, okay. I'll just share screen and we can get started. Okay, and I'll just minimize this and bring up your iPad.
Thank you.
And then we'll go full screen and then we're ready to go. Okay, great. Just one little adjustment and we'll just have a, okay, great. Okay, Joanna.
Okay, thanks Craig. Hello everyone. I'm going to be talking about the Bookbug Symbol Resources for shared reading that Call Scotland produce each year to accompany the book bag books provided by Scottish Book Trust each year to every P1 child in Scotland. I'm a speech and language therapist here at Call Scotland, and for the past few years we've been creating symbolised resources to accompany the books and accessible digital versions. So I'm going to show you what resources are available, how they work, and where to get them to download and start using with your learners. So since 2009, Call Scotland has produced accessible copies of the three shortlisted books, which are the three books that go in the P1 family bag, the three shortlisted books for the Bookbug Picture Book Prize, run by Scottish Book Trust each year. 2014 was the first year we made symbol resources to accompany the shortlist. And every P1 child in Scotland is gifted these three books as part of National Book Week in November, which is actually this week. So anybody out there with P1s in Scotland should be receiving their Bookbug bags this week.
So the books just get sent to the school, do they?
Yes, they just get sent to school and the school distributes them. They're encouraged to distribute them this week. They might do it next week, but this is a good time to get the books out there. Some schools might also have been looking at the books a bit earlier and started working on the books a bit earlier as well before they go home. And then the three books can go home with the children. To share with their parents and their siblings. The Bookbug Picture Book Prize, the voting deadline is in December. So because we make these resources over the summer and they're available from August, they've been available since August, we recommend teachers download the accessible books and symbol resources sort of earlier on in the autumn term so they've got plenty of time to work with the resources before the deadline. Saying that, lots of schools don't do that and they'll just be receiving the books just now. So depending on the learners, some may be able to vote before December if they've gone through all the books. Some may be doing it more as a project that lasts longer, a couple of terms, and just doing voting within the school. So about the award, the Bookbug Picture Book Prize is run every year. There are lots of resources on Scottish Book Trust website. In the bag you get lots of art resources, postcards, teaching resources. There's a teacher pack for which we make adapted activities for children, for learners with additional support needs, so slightly simplified, and pictorial versions of some of the activities too. There are lots of videos on the Scottish Book Trust website of the authors reading the books and other resources to download. It's quite a big thing. They usually get about 30,000 children across Scotland voting in the competition.
Yeah, it must be quite exciting for the authors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something it's only Scottish authors can be nominated in, so it's good for Scottish literature too. So the accessible formats that we make of the book, so that's what I'm going to talk about first. We make PowerPoint for PC, two different versions. So we have a version which is recorded narration only. So you have the pictures of the book, the pages of the book, and a recorded narration, which you can navigate, the learner could navigate at their own pace using a switch or using the keyboard or a rollerball or however they choose to access the computer, or by touchscreen if it's on a touchscreen computer or a smart board. And we also make a keynote version for the iPad. So obviously lots of iPads in schools these days. There's a keynote version that can be downloaded and played very much like the same way as PowerPoint, but on the touchscreen mobile device, which I'll show you in a little while. And there's also a version with an auditory prompt and switch prompt, which means that children who have physical difficulties and who have learning difficulties have a big switch prompt that comes up on the screen, and also an auditory prompt, a kind of ding to go with it. So maybe if they have a visual impairment as well, they get that extra prompt to know now's the time to touch the screen or press my switch and turn the page to hear the next part of the story. And this can give them more independent access to the book. Whereas with a hard copy of the book, they wouldn't be able to access the hard printed copy.
Are these human voices that are narrated, or is it computer?
Yes, they're human narrated by staff, Call Scotland staff.
Yeah, all right, very good.
So human narrated voice, so to bring a bit more life to the stories and make them a bit more interactive. So what resources are available? Well, as I said, Keynote version for the iPad, PowerPoint versions, and then there are lots of symbol resources that we produce to go along with the stories. So we've got Big Mac and Big Mac tops, switch tops, which can be printed out, they're PDFs, and put onto a single message device like a Big Mac, so a child can join in with the repetitive phrases in the story. For example, in this story, Gorilla Loves Vanilla, which was the winner last year, the repetitive line was in a wink, so everything happened in a wink. So a child could press the switch and say in a wink at the right time of the story, or they might want to press the switch to say turn the page. So that's their job. They'd be at that point in the story, they would turn the page and the person would turn the page of the book for them. We also have GoTalk 9 Plus overlays, which are 12 symbol button overlays. These can be printed out just as a printed laminated sheet or used in the communication aid GoTalk, which I'll talk a little bit about more in a minute. There's one for each of the 3 books, one for shared reading and one for voting, so the children can talk about what they liked about each story and vote for their favourite. In addition to this, we've made the equivalent of the GoTalk 9 overlays for Sounding Board, which is a free communication app. So there's the same symbols on there using images from the book, which we get from the publishers of the books, as well as symbol stick symbols, and it's got recorded voice in it as well. So if you download Sounding Board onto your iPads, a free communication app, go on our website, which will show you where you get the boards from, and download them. They're ready to use, ready recorded and ready to use, all free. So how do people get the accessible books? Well, they get them from our website, from the Books for All website. You can request a digital copy from us, and it will be the three different versions of the book, the PowerPoint recorded narration, the PowerPoint switch prompt, and the keynote. Links to those will be emailed back to you within the same day. You'll have the email with the links to the books, and then you can just download them to your computer or your mobile device.
So I'm assuming you go to the call site and then you go to the mini site, Books for All,
yeah,
and then you look for the Scottish Book Awards. Is that right?
Yeah. The easiest way to do it, which I will show you, would be to go through, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, our new Symbols for All website. So on the Symbols for All website, just opening up just now, this is our brand new website that was been launched recently. If you go to the Symbols for All website and go to the Bookbug section, and the primary one, Family Bag 2019, because it's 2019 because that's when the winner is announced, so we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. Here are the books, and then here it says, in addition, you can request digital accessible versions. So this gives you a link to the books, and also, as I'm going to show you in a minute, where all the symbol resources are. So that's the easiest way to go through the Symbols for All website.
So Symbolsforall.org,
yeah.
Yes, that's a nice, easy one to remember.
Yeah, and that would take you straight to the digital copies of the book to request the digital versions. Okay. So how do they work? Well, I'll show you one of this year's books, which is hot off the press, coming out this week in all the Primary 1 Bookbug bags. Here's the keynote version I'm going to show you on my iPad. So it's One Button Benny. So I can go into the book and play. I touch the screen, and the way that these have been set up is that they'll only change page when the switch prompt comes on. So if you have learners who have a habit of touching the screen over and over again and whizzing through things very fast, they can't do that with these versions of the books. They can't do it on the iPad version or the PowerPoint. They're set so they'll only move on when the prompt comes up. When the story's being read, they won't move on.
One button Benny.
You get a little bit of time to have a look at the picture and see what's happening.
Benny was different. Benny was special. Benny was a robot. Benny had a bright red button in the middle of his tummy. On the button, written in big, bold letters, were the words, "Only press in an emergency." Benny had never pressed his button. He often wondered what would happen if he did.
There you go. I'll leave you on a cliffhanger
Oh,
there.
no, I'm going to have to read that.
You're going to have to read the rest, Craig.
That's really exciting.
So that's how it works on the iPad, and it would be the same on a smartboard or on a computer. You'd be either touching the screen or pressing your switch at the time to, when the prompt comes up, to move on to the next page. Okay, so the symbolised resources, who would they be useful for? Well, any young children who are pre-readers, having the symbol and the word together is always a good thing for learning early literacy skills. Any children with reading or writing difficulties, communication difficulties, learning difficulties, children with English as an additional language would find the symbol resources very useful, and children who are visual learners, basically. So most learners could make use of them. I've tried them out in nurseries and primary 1 classes, and all the children love using them, not just the children who have the additional support needs. All children like pictures and words going with the pictures and pressing the button and hearing the voice coming out.
I think it's the sort of resource that when you go into schools and show teachers and they say, oh, I know lots of pupils who would benefit from that.
Yes, yeah, especially that early level of literacy. So can I just point out as well that the printed, the books, accessible books, are appropriate for children who have a print disability. So this is for children who cannot deal with the hard copy of the book.
Yeah.
So when you're requesting the books, you're agreeing that you're only going to be using them with children who have a print disability. It's not a kind of presentation tool. Yeah. Saying that, if you have 2 or 3 learners in a class with a print disability, you're obviously going to have a bigger group who will be accessing at the same time. But that's how you make an inclusive classroom, so that's fine. So just to make that you're aware of that. Whereas the symbolised resources, anyone can be using them. You can download them, use them with anybody, English as an additional language. So not necessarily learners with an additional support need or a print disability.
And I guess anyone, they're not just restricted to Scotland.
No,
anyone.
Yeah. Whereas the books are only for learners in Scotland, the accessible copies of the books. Anybody in the world could download the PDFs of the symbol resources and use them with the books. Yeah. Okay, so as I said, we've got overlays, symbol overlays for single message devices like a Big Mac or a little Mac. So these are PDFs of symbolised labels for turn the page, repeated phrases, etc. We've got the GoTalk 9 overlays for the GoTalk 9 Plus device. It also fits into a QuickTalker 12 device. And these can also be cut up or enlarged to be bigger size symbols, maybe for eye pointing, for eye gaze users, or cut up and used in a storyboard form. So you can do what you like with them, depending on your learners and depending on what equipment you have. And then also the sounding board app boards. So as I said, a sounding board is a great communication app, talking communication boards basically, iOS only. You can create anything from 1 to 20 messages per board. These boards have 16 cell messages ready for the story, and they're already pre-recorded as well. So I'm just going to show you now where you get these resources. So where do you get them from? As I said, our new Symbols for All website is now the one-stop shop for all the symbol resources, including some new curricular resources that we've been making with BoardMaker symbols too. If I just take you to the pack. So this is this year's symbol pack, 2019. And as I say, it tells you what's available, what the books are. So these are the 3 books coming out this week. You can request the digital versions. You can also download the previous year's books as well, from which I'll show you in a minute, but I'll show you the symbol resources first. So you've got some quick guides about how to use the story resources. For example, this one, which gives you an idea of how to actually run a shared reading interactive story session using the resources. You've got Big Mac symbols, for example. Let's have a look at this one. This has got "you can do it" and "splash." So there are some of the words that children could join in with, some of the phrases that could say at any time in the story to be appropriately joining in.
These are almost cuts in a circle, so you could probably put them over a switch.
Yes, that's to go on the Big Mac.
Okay,
Yep,
Big
so they
Mac,
can go on the Big Mac. So there's 2 sizes, the Big Mac size and the little step size. So these are slightly smaller ones. And as I said as well, you could cut them up and have them for eye pointing on an e-tran frame, or as a sort of storyboard as well. So lots of different uses. I'll show you the Eric Makes a Splash. Here you go. That's the GoTalk 9 overlay. So again, these are just PDFs. You can just print them out. You don't need any special software, and laminate them, and either use them just low tech, just for pointing, or as overlays on the GoTalk 9 communication aid. Vocab sheet as well. These are very popular in previous years, the numbers of downloads of these, because basically the key words and vocabulary has been isolated from the book for you already. So you could not only be using these in the symbol resources, you could be using them for other activities, literacy activities in the classroom.
Wow, it's a lot of work, but some great resources.
Thanks, Craig. Also, the sounding board app board, I'll show you. This is the sounding board app board here. So if I press the board, and if I have sounding board on my iPad, it will then ask me, what do you want to do? I want to open in sounding board. It opens up sounding board for me, and it just pops there you go, pops the board in, straight in for me, and it's all ready.
You can do it.
Ready recorded.
Eric. Worried.
So see, Eric's a bit worried, and he's got a best friend. What's his best friend called?
Flora.
And Eric.
Eric.
And
Flora. Friends.
They're friends, and they get invited to go somewhere.
Swimming. Party.
So they go to a swimming party. And every time Eric gets a bit nervous, Flora says,
Flora. You can do it.
So the children can talk about what's happening in the story, answer questions about the story. And in addition, you've got shared reading pages where you can talk about any story. You can use this for any story, actually, saying that was
funny.
Or
I like.
if you're talking about the characters, maybe, or
what's that?
And then you might also want to say,
turn the page.
Or
can I have a different story?
Can I have a different story, for example?
I think you mentioned earlier this is a free app, isn't it?
Yes, it's a free communication app, yes. We've used Symbol Stick Symbols, JPEGs, so images, and images from the book for ours. There is a small built-in symbol library with the Sounding Board app, but you're really relying more on your own pictures and your own photos and things to make up your communication boards. But yes, it's
Good,
great.
isn't it? Very good.
I'll just go back here. And then, as I said, as well as so there's the same for every single board, for every single book. There's also a teacher pack activity, as I said, a simplified version of an activity to go with the Scottish Book Trust teacher pack. And then you've got your voting boards as well. So I open up the voting board. So you've got the 3 different books, and the child could be saying, I like the characters in Eric Makes a Splash, or I don't like the pictures in One Button Benny, etc. So they can be really having their voice heard and talking about what they like about the story. As well as this year's packs, if you go back to the Bookbug main page here, we've got all the previous years that we've been doing, the last 4 years before this year's pack. So this is last year's resources. You might recognise some of these books. Shark in the Park, There's a Bear in My Chair. What else have we got? Never Tickle a Tiger, Moonlight School, Robot Rumpus, Princess Penelope. So lots of resources, and probably books that you might find around school. Because as I say, every child, probably one child, gets these books, so there's always spare copies around. So lots of pre-made resources.
What's the process for recording? If people want to vote for a specific book, I guess guess the teacher just records it.
Yeah, you would do it in class, and then the teacher would go on the Scottish Book Trust website, and you can record the number of votes for each book there. So the teacher would be doing that. But I mean, as I say, if the children in your class might take longer and wouldn't get a chance to do that before December, say, a lot of schools just do it as a kind of in-house thing. They'd have a sort of voting, and it wouldn't necessarily go to Scottish Book Trust, but they'd just be doing it as a in-school activity. So that's where all the Bookbug symbol resources are. When I said about the books as well, so the previous year's books, etc., these are all housed on the Books for All website. And if you go from here, PowerPoint Library PDF is a good way to go and find all those. Again, just straight from our Symbols for All website, it'll take you a link to the PowerPoint book library.
That's another great resource.
So if you download that PDF, all the links are clickable links to the titles of the books from all the previous years on the Books for All database. You sign in with your Glow username and password or Scran username and password, and you just download them straight to your iPad or your PC. Okay. Let's just go back to where we were. Just coming up now. Okay, and in addition, Scottish Book Trust have got a zip file of the symbol resources on their resources page too, so that everyone can get as much access to them as possible, and we get the word out. So how do you use them? Now, the best way to suggest that you find out about that is, again, on our Symbols for All website, there's a section on examples of using the Bookbug resources. So if I just go here just now and show you that too.
I've seen these videos, they're very good actually.
Well, Scottish Book Trust produced them, which was great. So they came along with myself to Braidburn School in Edinburgh, special school, and we did a kind of accessible Bookbug session. So again, on the Bookbug website, and then examples of symbol resources, there's a video of myself with some of the children and the speech language therapist in the school doing a Bookbug session, and then also going through the symbol resources and showing you how they work on all the different devices.
So definitely recommend watching them.
Yeah, I think it definitely puts it in context, and you kind of think, oh, it makes you think about which learners you'd be wanting to use the resources with. And again, so there's an example of a couple of the books being used on the smart board, with switches being used to turn the page, and also a little boy using the sounding board app boards to join in and talk about the story and what he liked best about the stories.
Okay, great. That's really, I'll just come out of there and we'll go back to the main page. And just quickly change. Okay, hi Lynn. I'm afraid you're the only person that's here today, but we do know that people watch these recordings. So do you have any questions for Joanna? So, sorry to unfairly ask you. If not, it doesn't matter, but if you do, just type them into the box below. I'm desperate to find out what happened to that robot, so I'm going to have to go read the book. So,
Benny.
No, okay, don't worry, that's not a problem. Okay, I think we'll just close the webinar now, and that will be obviously available as a recording, and everyone's names, including yours, will be anonymised. So, so thanks again to Joanna. That was really interesting. Some great resources.
Thank you, and I hope you all go and have a look, seeing as it's a National Book Week this week. Go and have a look and download them, ready to use with your learners.
Okay. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Bye. Thanks, Lynette. Thank you. Bye.